Do you have an enemy at work? Okay, okay. Maybe that's too strong of a word. How about people who make your life harder than it needs to be? People who react to everything you do with some sort of negativity, and they generally make you wish they weren't in your life. I'm going to talk about the yin yang of having positive people and negative people in your career. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Career. So go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com. This is the surprising benefit of haters. Issue 592. And I want to talk about how you can rebound from their negativity and use that energy to prove people wrong. And I'm not going to say everybody needs this. I certainly needed it. I've found surprisingly it's something that has helped me in my life as I look back on it. And I won't say that I had a lot of enemies during my career, a lot of enemies during my life. I don't feel like I'm the person who has a lot of enemies. I don't think. I think it's one of those things we don't know, right? There are some people who may view us in a very negative way and we never hear about it. And I know that's entirely possible. But there are some people that I know for sure were a bit of a thorn in my side. Maybe even a full-blown kind of opponent at work. They definitely made my work life harder than it needed to be. In some ways, I don't think that was necessary, and I don't think it really helped me. In other ways, yeah, there were ways that it did. And at the time, I found myself wishing that we didn't work together. And I can think of some of these people in my personal life that I wish weren't in my personal life. But with time, there is healing, there is forgiveness, there is understanding, and a little bit of self-reflection and growth where I realized they did me a favor. And I don't know if they thought they were doing me a favor. I'm not going to give them the benefit of that. I don't think they were like, I'm going to help this person grow. I don't think they were thinking that at all. But if I look at it from my perspective, it helped me. I needed that. Because I often talk about using a pull to draw you toward better opportunities in your career. I especially talk about this when you're interviewing for a job. So they're going to ask you, why do you want to leave your job if you still have your job? If you've been laid off or you quit your job, yeah, you've already left. But they're going to ask, why do you want to quit your job? Why do you want to leave your job? Why do you want to come work for us? Some people make the mistake of describing that as a push, which doesn't come off in a very positive or attractive way for a potential employer. So they can say, oh, I hate my job. I'm looking for something new. No potential employer wants to hear that. I hate my boss. I hate my coworkers. They don't want to hear that. They're not paying me enough, so I'm leaving. So you do hear some people say this. Oh my goodness. I remember interviewing a few people where we asked that softball question. Why are you looking for a new job? Why do you want to leave your job? And they made the mistake of describing it as a push. They're like, oh, I hate my boss. I hate my boss. Yeah, that didn't work out very well. So I do talk about looking for a way to describe that as a pull. And I don't mean that only as a trick or a game you're doing during a job interview. You should be doing this. So you should always be looking for growth opportunities. Is there a potential new role, either within the same company or in a different company, that will help you continue to grow, that will challenge you to grow? There's professional challenges. You're going to make the leap into management and leadership. You're going to learn something entirely new, a new domain, whatever it might be. Maybe you're going to switch professions. I had that happen. I went from being a designer and a design leader for most of my career to becoming a product leader. And that was terrifying for me. That was a big challenge. It was a huge growth opportunity. Leaving to found a startup was a huge growth opportunity. You might want to be pulled into a new job because it's going to give you a promotion. I talk about that all the time. If you're moving between jobs, if you're going to quit your job and take a new job, I hope you are using that to give yourself a promotion. Anybody who's been in a company for many years knows it slows down. It's really hard to get promoted once you're inside a company, unless you're really lucky, unless you're in a great place with a great leader who's really looking out for you, or the company's going through significant change and growth and you're going to ride the wave. You're going to get promoted a lot. Most people will find that their promotion cycles slow way down. So you better be looking for this as an opportunity to get promoted. And I know I did that when I moved between companies. In one case, it was also a significant raise, a tremendously great raise, like a 50% raise. So worth it. It was a pull. It could be a chance to work on something exciting. Maybe you've been working somewhere and you're kind of seeing that the company isn't really innovating anymore. It's not really an industry leader. And then something new comes along. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is a chance to do something really new and exciting. It's going to help reinvent my career. It could be an opportunity to work with really talented people, talented coworkers, a talented manager. And I know people who've done that. They deliberately targeted a company and an organization where they would have access to some people that were pretty notable in the industry. A great chance to build a really strong relationship with people. And you will notice that people follow great leaders. Great people tend to stick together and they will go from company to company, or they'll leave a company together to found a startup. It happens all the time. Or maybe it's just a chance to learn something new. You feel like you're stagnating. You've kind of tapped out, and there's this new role that's going to give you a chance to learn something entirely new. So these are all pulls, and that's great. And that's great when they happen. However, sometimes a push is helpful. Sometimes a push might be necessary. I've seen this happen with other people. I've had it happen with myself. You may need a push if you've become too comfortable with a job and you're no longer growing. You're no longer learning. The job's pretty easy. You know everyone. You know how to do it. You don't feel that kind of rush of adrenaline because you're a little nervous every day because you're at the leading edge of your skills and challenging yourself. It's too easy. Now, if that's what you want, fine. Some people like that. I know some people that have worked in the same company and job for 30, 40 years. And that's fine for them. It's a paycheck. They don't care. They have a lot of friends at work. They don't want the career to challenge them, and that's okay. But if you want to keep moving up in your career and things have slowed down, you're not getting promoted, you're not learning, you're not growing because you're so comfortable, you might need a push. Or maybe you're in a bad place. You're stuck in a rut. It's in a bad kind of environment, but you don't know how to get out of it. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. You might need a push. A push might help you. Or maybe you know what you want to do, but you're afraid. You're afraid to take that risk. Like maybe you've always wanted to found a startup. You've always wanted to build your own company, but you're scared. And you don't want to embrace that change that will take you to the next level. Because it is. Change is scary. Change is risky. I've talked about this recently. That if you're not facing risks, if you're not taking risks, you're not growing. And Willem Dafoe said this, that the only risk is not taking risks, because then you stagnate. There can be times when you've lost confidence in yourself. So you don't believe in yourself anymore and you're settling for less. And deep down inside, you know you're capable of more. You know you have some greatness inside you, but you've lost that confidence. But if someone pushed you, if you got a push, you would be forced to rise to the occasion. And then sometimes you need that enemy, that hater, that troll, that person who doesn't believe in you to speak an uncomfortable truth that maybe you've been avoiding. So sometimes it hurts because it's true. And your closest friends and people that love you sometimes don't want to say it because they don't want to hurt your feelings. The person that doesn't like you doesn't have that problem. They're gonna say some negative things to you. And it hurts, but sometimes it's exactly what you need to hear. So I do now see this yin-yang concept of positive and negative people that play a role in your personal life. They play a role in your professional life because it can't all be sunshine and puppies. It never will be, for one. And now I see that it never should be. That sometimes we need that friction, that pain, those challenges with people that kind of get under our skin and vice versa. We get under their skin. That force us to reflect on who we are and what we need to do and how to keep on growing. So I look back on this and I'm recognizing and accepting and appreciating the role that these negative people or the negative things they did or said, that it played in my life, because I think it did push me during those moments I needed it. And so, I'm thinking back on this. I'll share a few examples because I kind of bleed my heart out in these podcast episodes. You guys are my therapist, my virtual therapist. So, I think back. Let me think. There have been many times that this has happened, even when I was much younger. I remember one time, and this was my last year of high school. So my friends and I, a group of us, I think there were 5 of us. I don't even know how this all got started, but we all started talking about joining the local National Guard. So the Army National Guard. And I think because not a single one of us came from money. And one of us had looked into it because his father had been in the Army. So he looked into it and he came back and told all of us, hey, there's a big signing bonus if we join. They're going to help pay for our college education. You get a stipend. We get a monthly check when we do our duty and all that kind of stuff. We just have to go through regular Army basic training, advanced training, and then we have to dedicate a weekend a month and I think 2 weeks in the summer, right? So it was regular Army basic training. I think people don't understand that you go and you're side by side with people who've joined the Army and they're going to make it a full-time career. I did not do that. It wasn't my full-time career, so I was in the Army National Guard. And we were going to be tankers. So it was an M60A1 tank. You start out driving, loading the main gun. It's a 105 millimeter cannon. And then if you're good at kind of using your shooting and targeting, you get promoted and then become a gunner. I was a gunner. I think I'll thank my video game time for that. But I was a pretty good gunner. So it's tough. Basic training's tough. They tear you down. They abuse you. Back in those days, they physically abused you. They could hit you. They don't do that anymore. Make us punish ourselves. All kinds of physical torment, mental torment, going without sleep. You name it. Fighting, weapons training. And I remember somebody had heard we were all going to join, and they made a nasty comment about me, and they said, there's no way you're going to hack it. You're not going to be able to do this. Because I was so skinny back then. Gosh, I wish that was a problem now. But I was really thin. I was not a big guy. And they said, yeah, no way you're going to be able to hack this physically, because you have to run so much, and push-ups and pull-ups and you name it, all kinds of physical demands. And that kind of, ruffled my feathers. I was like, oh, I'll show you. And I mean, what a silly thing to do. I mean, this wasn't the only reason, obviously, that I joined, but I was like, yeah, I'll prove you wrong. Anyway, we actually ended up joining. So yeah, I was in the Army National Guard for over 7 years, and went to basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Yeah, it was brutal. It was hard. We ran like 5 miles every morning, did the push-ups, the sit-ups. We got up at like 4 a.m. We were up in the dark doing this stuff. And so we would work out for like 2 hours and marching before we even went to breakfast. I did it. I succeeded at doing it. Actually, was so good at doing it, I became a squad leader. And then later I got promoted and I became a platoon sergeant. So I was good. I was good at it. I was good with the weapons. I was good with other stuff we had to do. I was a good tanker, a good gunner. Proved them wrong. And it changed me. It changed me mentally. It changed me physically. It made me stronger. I developed muscle that I'd never had before. And this person saw me again later and was like, what happened to you? Well, the military happened to me. So I kind of needed that push maybe, right? And I think overall it was good for me. It made me a different person than I would have been otherwise. And I feel like I have grit and determination because of what I went through, that everything else in life seems kind of easier. And it did help pay for college. So it helped me get through college because I was not raised with a silver spoon. I am not wealthy. I did not grow up wealthy. So that happened. And then partway through college, I had kind of a bad time where I just thought it should be easier than it was, because high school was easy for me, but college was not. It's like I was not used to studying. I was not used to applying myself because I never had to before. I got all A's without even trying. College isn't like that. It wasn't like that for me. So I was, studying mechanical engineering. I had physics and calculus and chemistry and all this stuff, and I should have been studying, but I wasn't. So I did terribly in my first year. Lost my scholarship, and I dropped out. And just started working blue-collar jobs. So I did that for at least a year. I'm trying to remember how long, but before I was 21. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, she broke up with me and said, you're never going to amount to anything. She was really disappointed that I dropped out of college, and she said, you're a loser. You're never going to amount to anything. Of course, that stings a little bit. But even that was still not enough. And I remember working at Kmart of all places, the stock room, taking stuff off trucks and putting it into the bays and getting stuff ready to put out on the floor. So just a lot of physical labor. And there was a guy that worked with us this over the summer, and then he was going back to school, and he's like, oh, you going back to college after this? And I said, nah, I dropped out. This is my job. And he goes, man, what a pathetic loser. He's like, you're going to be here the rest of your life. Okay, loser. All right. So these two things kind of combined, and I was like, I am going to prove you people wrong. Okay, this is enough. They're right. And it was an unpleasant truth to hear. I was not on a good path. My life was not going to be great. And I really should go back to school. And I did. I went back to college. And I applied myself. I was like, okay, I need to study. I need to work hard. I'm going to take it seriously. And I did. And I got all A's after that and had to claw my GPA back up. And then even went on and applied to graduate school. And and was briefly told even then I was too old to apply to graduate school. So another time, it wasn't really being cruel, but just being honest, saying, wow, you're 24 years old, you're 25. I can't remember, 24, 25. And I was too old to be applying to graduate school. And again, I was like, I'll show you. I'll prove you wrong. And so I went to graduate school and I did well. I got my PhD from Rice University, got a job at Apple, had a job at IBM. So it ended up working out really well. And I think some of that was from people pushing me and telling me that I couldn't do it, that I wouldn't succeed, that I was going to be a failure at life. And I think it was quite a long time after that, because like I said, I don't feel like I've made a lot of enemies in my life. Um, I pushed hard at work. I had friction with people. I feel like it was mutual respect, but I can remember one time where the tension was bad. The tension was bad. And this person seemed to really have it in for me. I discovered, as many of you may have discovered, as you move up, as you get promoted, things change. Things get more political. You're competing for fewer positions. You can think of it like a pyramid. At the base of the pyramid are all these entry-level jobs, and it's pretty easy to get them. There are a ton of entry-level jobs, and they don't have a lot of expectation, and you're not really competing with each other. And even the first few promotions, it's like there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room for people in the middle and even senior. And then it starts to change. As you get to lead or principal and you move into management, you become a director. And I discovered, especially when you become a vice president, wow, the knives come out. It gets very, very political. So I had a lot of friction with this person. A lot of friction. And it kind of pushed me. It pushed me out of a very comfortable job where I really was enjoying what I was doing. It felt pretty easy. It felt pretty effortless. I really liked all the people I worked with, had a lot of friends. But because of what was going on with this person, I was like, you know what? I got to get out of here. This is not going where I want it to go. This person has political clout. I'll learn this lesson. I'll lick my wounds and I won't let this happen again. And so it pushed me, and it pushed me into a better job. I got a promotion, and I ended up on the path to become an executive. And I don't think it would have happened if I hadn't been pushed out of a comfortable nest. I think I still probably would have climbed slowly, but I wouldn't have grown as much. And I certainly wouldn't have moved into the type of roles that I took on later. It really pushed me. It really pushed me hard. And then that happened again later, where I think I had, some tension with some very senior executives that had a lot of power. And I mean, a lot of power. And I'd already discovered kind of the knives coming out as an executive. And I was managing that. I don't feel like they were pushing me out, but it was definitely less enjoyable than it had been at the lower levels of my career. It felt like you're on your own. I think many of you discover that. That's why I provide leadership coaching. You can go to invinciblecareer.com if you want to learn more about my services and my coaching. But I provide leadership coaching to people who discover it's kind of lonely as you get closer to the top. You can't really share your fears and concerns and worries and get advice from your team because they expect you to be strong. You're supposed to be the rock. You're supposed to make them feel good if things are getting shaky at work. You're supposed to help them solve their problems. They're not there to be your therapist. Your boss doesn't want to hear it either. I'd say most of us do not have or haven't had a boss who really wants to hear that we're struggling or that we have issues or we need advice. I remember asking a leader, there's a couple times in my career, I asked a leader for advice. And they said, oh, if you can't handle this, maybe you shouldn't be in this role. Maybe you should be fired. And that was the last time I asked for advice. I learned that that's not a safe space. And I learned that my peers were not a safe space because they were competing for promotions, and there were very, very few promotions once you get to be an executive. They were competing for resources. They were trying to steal budget, trying to steal team members. It gets really unpleasant. And some people are kind of professional and nice about it, and others are not so much. They smile to your face and stab you in the back. I wish I was unique in this. I'm not. I recently shared something about this on LinkedIn and Threads, Facebook, about how much corporate life kind of changed and the tech and specifically changed. And a lot of other people said, yeah, it's not fun anymore. I want to get out. I don't feel like it's a good place for me anymore. It's not good for my health. So yeah, I had some of that tension. I feel like there was some mutual respect. Even the people came forward and said, hey, I'm going to miss you being at the company when I decided to leave. And they were helpful. They gave me some great advice. But the senior leadership was not so much because they weren't being honest. They were not being honest. And later I found out I was right because I kind of confronted them about what I thought was happening with the company and thought was happening with my organization and product specifically. And they lied to my face. They weren't being honest, and that upset me. So I kind of lost respect for them. I pushed in a public space because I didn't care anymore. And you don't do that. You don't challenge a very, very senior executive in public. Poor babies can't handle it. And they couldn't handle it. They got very upset. So it became a very unpleasant place for me to be. And I was like, okay, this is another push. I need to get out. And that pushed me, kind of the big final push that really put me on a new course to reinvent my life. So thank you for being horrifically terrible leaders. Thank you for lying. Thank you for not being honest. Thank you for making my life miserable because it forced me to get out of a comfortable place, making good money, to reinvent my life, to get my health back, to get my relationships back, to put me on a path to solopreneurship, which I absolutely adore. I love working for myself. I love building my startup. I had a fantastic team. That was such a great experience, such an amazing experience. So I haven't had a corporate job since 2010. That was the last push out of the nest. Thankfully. And now I'm in a place where I kind of control everything, right? So I don't have pushes anymore because I don't have a boss. I don't have coworkers. I don't have partners. I am a lifestyle business owner and a solopreneur, and I call the shots for everything. Yes, I'm a control freak. And I'm enough of a perfectionist. I push myself and hurt myself when I don't do what I should be doing. So I don't need a nasty boss doing that for me. But my whole point with this is to maybe help you see things in a new light. Because there are probably people in your personal life, and there are probably people in your work life, I think all of us have this, who aren't necessarily our best friends, and they don't make us happy. We don't like to see them in the office or see them on a Zoom call. And maybe they're not a full-blown enemy, but they're antagonistic. They cause friction. They push us. And that might be exactly what you need. It might be something that pushes you to be even greater at what you do, to prove them wrong, to kind of dot your I's and cross your T's so everything's buttoned up, and when you have conflict, you win the argument. The outcome goes in your favor. Pushes you to new heights of excellence, so you're the one that gets promoted. Maybe it forces you to re-examine some stuff you need to work on that you haven't been able to admit to yourself. It's like, you know what? I will do this. I will overcome this fear. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to grow. And I'm going to take my career to a whole new level that I wouldn't have otherwise if I hadn't encountered this person. So take a hard look. Take a hard look at your history. Take a hard look at your current relationships. And honestly assess, are there people who are giving you that push that you need? And so you still won't be their best friend. You still may not appreciate them as a human being. but you will recognize the value they provide for you in your life. And I think it's okay to embrace that. I think it's okay to look for that so that you can say, this is what I need. This is what I need to challenge me to be my best self, personally and professionally. All right, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. And next time you listen to this, I'm going to be in Alaska. So I'm going to be in Alaska for a few weeks doing some volunteer work. Talk about getting out of your comfort zone. Take care. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck in becoming an opportunity magnet for the best things in life.